So we're going into the first match of the finals. It will be King of Kimchi versus Alan Dang. We see Alan Dang playing his Temple Warrior, and we also see King of Kimchi playing his mid-range Hunter deck. And I know that we're a little bit behind, but we're not missing too much. So the Desert Camel is on board at the moment. It probably summoned a 1-drop minion already, and it probably got destroyed. But Alan Dang playing the Korkan Elite, trying to trade the Desert Camel very efficiently and trying to pull off a 2-for-1. But fortunately enough, King of Kimchi does have the bow. And let's see what King Zellic gets. Ooh, a Savannah Highmane. Really good for a turn 6 kind of play because it's really hard to deal with, and it probably wastes a lot of resources from Alan Dang's hand and something on board as well. Just because that card is just so sticky, and especially when King of Kimchi has 2 of them. And having the Zoth in hand too, so if 2 Savannah Highmane actually dies off, the Zoth is just gonna bring them back, which is pretty insane. So King of Kimchi is looking really good in the late game. Alan Dang removing as much creatures as possible with the Slam, and also playing the Frenzy Monkey, trying to potentially get a 2-for-1 with it. And the King's Elec got Princess Huhuran. I personally love this card. Why? Because as a 5-drop, it has really good stats. You don't necessarily need to pull off its effect. You can just play as a 5-drop for 6/5 for tempo, and the effect is pretty sick. It's like a feign death. So all in all, this card as a package is like really good. So Alan Dang tried to establish as much board as possible, playing the Bloodhoof Brave, which is one of the cards in the Whisper's Old God pack that's really good. A very powerful taunt and really hard to move at the same time. So King of Kimchi has a couple of cards that he can play. He can either play the Savannah Highmane or Sylvanas. He decides to play Sylvanas. I personally don't like that, is because if Alan Dang actually has some kind of activator to cause his Bloodhoof Brave to actually be enraged, the Sylvanas is pretty much going to get no value. It does cause him to do some inefficient trades, but I definitely feel Savannah Highmane is a lot better. I guess the way that Sylvanas has a lot of value here is that Alan Dang doesn't remove it this turn. If it isn't removed this turn and he decides to just trade the huge toad, he can just use the Princess Huhuran to just steal the Bloodhoof Brave. But I think Alan Dang should have knew that Princess Huhuran is coming down, just because King's Elec actually showed that it was in King of Kimchi's hand, so he should have anticipated that and tried to remove the Sylvanas, or at least try to remove the Sylvanas as fast as possible so you don't get baited and get stolen like a creature on your side of the board. So right now the Fire War Axe is going to be used on the Bloodhoof Brave, and a Whirlwind might even come down. I mean, a Blood of Ichor or even Whirlwind might come down here to activate the Execute. But no, he's going to use it for the Acolyte, going to draw some more. I like that. And Taskmaster is being picked up right here. Going to draw as much as possible from Alan Dang's side. Ooh, picking him at Battle Rage also. Going to draw additional 2 cards if he really wants to. But right now, I feel like, yeah, you should develop as many creatures as possible, because you just did lose like a lot of tempo just by the Sylvanas with the Princess Huhuran combo. King of Kimchi is a pretty dominant position right now. He can pretty much play that Savannah Highmane. Ooh, oh my. Well, getting Leok is pretty good, because Unleash, it's pretty good here with that combo. Oh man, gonna do a lot of damage from this board. So right now, is this lethal though? So let's see, he trades his taunt in 2, 4, 6, 8 plus another 7. That's only 15, so he's only 1 off lethal. Oh wait, no, he is actually exactly lethal. My bad. So King of Kimchi taking the first game away from Alan Dang. We're going to go on to the second game of the night. So King of Kimchi is going to play his aggro shaman deck, I believe, and Alan Dang continuing with his tempo warrior. So in my honest opinion, I actually feel that the aggro shaman has the upper hand here. If the aggro shaman actually has a really explosive hand, he can actually snowball this quite hard. But Alan Dang also has a very defensive line in his tempo warrior deck. He runs like the Dread Corsairs. He does have a lot of weapons to fend off the early pressure, and he also has the armor to actually rejuvenate himself from lethal range as well. But King of Kimchi having a really good opening hand, as explosive as I said. So it's actually really hard for Alan Dang to actually remove this early board pressure just because he doesn't have the fiery War Axe to bring back the tempo. He is going to bring out the Acolyte of Pain. He does need draws since there's really nothing in his hand to actually gain back the early board. King of Kimchi is actually deciding to use the Earthshock or not to deny Alan Dang some draws since he doesn't really have anything reactive to this board. But it doesn't really matter too much. Just trading in one of the creatures just to prevent Alan Dang from drawing two or more cards is pretty much good enough. Alan Dang is in really tight pressure right here, and he uses the Battle Rage to just only draw one card, and using Execute only onto a Flame Juggler. This actually signals to King of Kimchi that Alan Dang doesn't really have a lot in his hand to actually deal with this board, so he's in a pretty good position here. Picking up the Argent Horse Rider. So I feel like this is the only time King of Kimchi can actually play Ancestral Knowledge, so definitely play it now. So and Totem up, it's pretty much the same. He does develop another creature with the Flame Tongue Totem. He doesn't really need to rush too much since Alan Dang really put nothing on the board and he's taking damage each and every turn. So King of Kimchi snowballing the really strong opening hand while Alan Dang can't really do anything about this. So, but picking up the Fire War Axe, finally, I feel removing the Flame Tongue Totem is pretty good because it does represent 4 points of damage, and you're allowed to develop the Dread Corsair as well to protect yourself just a little bit. But as we know that there's a lot of damage coming from King of Kimchi's side, he can easily remove this with just a simple Earthshock or even with just a Rockbiter weapon. I would personally just use a Rockbiter weapon and save the Earthshock for a Bloodhoof Brave because there's a possibility that Alan Dang might draw it, and Bloodhoof Brave is a little bit more difficult to remove just because it's just so sticky. So I actually feel that the Rockbiter is better here, and then just go face with the Argent Horse Rider. Yeah, oh actually, yeah, you can't play the Origin Harris Rider with the Rockbiter, but you can just hero power and then you do at least like 6 points of damage, and you can follow up with Lava Burst and maybe another Origin Horse Rider the following turn. But he does decide to play the Origin Horse Rider this turn. Maybe he's saving the Rockbiter for a potential Doomhammer later on in the game. I definitely like that, so that's also a fair play as well. King of Kimchi looking like he's in a pretty good position because if Alan Dang doesn't remove the board entirely, he's going to be very vulnerable to lethal. Oh, especially when he can't really hero power right now. So an Earthshock will counteract his Bloodhood Brave. A Lava Burst will come down with a Rockbiter for more than enough for lethal. And Alan Dang was like, damn. Just shaman things, right? So King of Kimchi will be taking the second game from Alan Dang with his aggro shaman deck. So King of Kimchi up 2-0 against Alan Dang. So this could be the last game of the night. King of Kimchi up 2-0 against Alan Dang. So King of Kimchi is going to play a Zoo deck, and Alan Dang sticking with his Temple Warrior once again. I actually feel like this is a pretty good call playing the Temple Warrior again, just because Temple Warrior has the utility to actually beat Zoo, because they have a lot of 1 damage kind of removals, right? Like the Ravaging Ghoul, the Blood of Ichor, Cruel Taskmaster, they even have the Fire War Axe to gain back tempo and stuff like that. So looking at King of Kimchi's hand, he has a pretty good curve at the moment. He does have a turn 1 play. I personally like just playing the Voidwalker here, so that next turn he could potentially just play the Dark Peddler. If he has a 1 drop that he likes, he could coin it in, and then he could follow up with the Imp Boss the following turn. So he does actually have a really good curve. So Alan Dang playing the Blood of Ichor just to counteract the Voidwalker with a 2-2 on board, just gain a little bit back of tempo, just because he doesn't really have that good of a hand. On turn 3, he can't really play much but a Cruel Taskmaster, but on turn 3, if he feels like he would be really behind, he can just play the Cruel Taskmaster on a certain creature and just execute it straight on turn 3. And on turn 4, he can follow up with Dread Corsair. Obviously, you don't really want to play it when it's full mana, right? Because it's not really worth it. So looking at King of Kimchi, he's actually deciding if he should play the Peddler or the Imp Gang Boss. I personally like the Peddler, as I said before, because you can coin out the the one drop if you really want to, but he decides to play the Imp Gang Boss. I guess it doesn't really guarantee you to actually coin it out like the one drop from the Dark Peddler, so it might be a little awkward with the coin being used in the future turns, but I feel like it does add a little bit of flexibility. But I guess you want to develop a creature as fast as possible if you have the coin in your hand, so Imp Gang Boss is definitely not bad as well. And Alan Dang did pick up a Fiery War Axe, so the Dread Corsair will be reduced and gaining him a pretty good board. And I feel that he has a pretty good trade the following turn. He can use the Peddler in with the Abusive Sergeant, so it's actually really good. So using, maybe he would Peddler first, but ooh, a Doomguard. Okay, so he's gonna use the Dark Peddler, gonna see what he gets. Ooh, Gadgetzan, Jouster, Blood Imp, and Corruption. It's actually a very, very tough decision. I feel like the Gadgetzan Jouster is a little better. Corruption, there's not really a creature that you really want to remove at the moment, and lots of Alan Dang's kind of creatures are small as well, so Corruption is not totally really good there. But Blood Imp can able to buff up your minions, but it's not gonna last that long because Warrior does have the Whirlwind effect. So Jouster was being picked, could potentially be a really good one drop if it wins the Joust. So using the Abusive Sergeant and using the Imp Gang Boss to trade off the Dread Corsair, we're gonna see the Taskmaster coming down to gain a little back of tempo just to remove the minions on board. We do see another Fiery War Axe coming out just to gain a little bit of tempo and using the mana so that it doesn't need to be used the next turn. We do see the Dark Iron Dwarf going to be played out, gonna be played on curve, which is really, really good because it's a really good body and it does deny the Fire War Axe. So if Alan Dang has to use a minion and Fire War Axe to actually remove this Dark Iron Dwarf. We do see Harrison being played for tempo right here. We can potentially see a Power Overwhelming just gain back the tempo and allow King of Kimchi to develop like 2 creatures on the board. He can develop the Flame Imp and the Gadgetzan Jouster, and then using the Power Overwhelming to gain a little bit of tempo by removing the Harrison. So looking at a pretty good spot for King of Kimchi, and he does win the Joust, so that's pretty good. Getting another strong minion on board, so a little harder for Alan Dang to actually remove. So looking pretty good for King of Kimchi here. He has established a pretty solid board that's pretty hard to remove. He can use Argus with the Direwolf Alpha the next turn for a lot of efficient trades. But yeah, we do see a War Axe. I forgot about the War Axe, that he still had it. But yeah, the War Axe will actually reduce a lot of damage being put out. And so he can't really remove the Bloodhoof Brave that efficiently, even if he plans to just play the Argus with the Direwolf Alpha. So he's planning to play the Doomguard. But unfortunately enough, the Sea Giant is removed, one of the bigger creatures that he would really want. And I know that the Doomguard did remove the Bloodhoof Brave, but this is very vulnerable to execute, and it allows Alan Dang to gain back the board a little bit and play the Korkan Elite to push a little bit of damage and pressure to King of Kimchi, forcing him to actually try to remove this Korkan Elite and any monsters, creatures that Alan Dang is going to play following up. Ooh, we see a Peddler move to the side, a little bit of a glitch. Ooh, getting put to a Possessed Villager, perfect, with the Argus. So, King of Kimchi getting a really, really perfect kind of a one drop from the Dark Peddler with to complement with the Argus. So, Sylvanas being played by Alan Dang. I feel like he can trade something off, but it doesn't really need to be traded off. He can potentially just trade off the Death Rattle. But a 3/3 is also good too. By doing this, the Sylvanas is really, really uncontested. Doomguard is picked up. I like this. I like just slamming it down and just ignoring the board and just go face. Is because Sylvanas will take a couple of turns to actually penetrate through this taunt or actually penetrate this board enough to actually steal something. So just go face. Alan Dang also has a similar health total. You can just raise some, but the Bloodhoof Brave is being picked up, so King of Kimchi is not going to have lethal anytime soon, even if he picks up Powerful Overwhelming, because he has to get past these 2 big taunts. So King of Kimchi has to pick up something really good to actually move these taunts. Gormok Impeller is probably one of the better cards being picked up right now, since he definitely does need that. A Direwolf Alpha is being... Oh, and Sea Giant is being picked up as well. So, since he has a Sea Giant right here, I personally like to remove the board as much as possible. before playing the Sea Giant, just so it doesn't get stolen. Because if the Sea Giant really gets stolen right now, it's actually very, very difficult for Kimchi to gain back the board and just win this game, because both of these players are so tight in terms of health. So I feel like the Sea Giant should only be played only if the Savant is removed with this board, and he can definitely do that. He can definitely trade it in, like he used Direwolf Alpha to trade in everything, and then allow Alan Danks to just steal a minimum amount, like just the Doom Guard, I believe. Yeah, he can. Yeah, so it allows the Savants to just be on board, so like forces the Savants to like steal very minimal amount, and then when Savannah disappears from the board, you can just slam down Sea Giant and force Alan to actually move it. He does have an execute right now. If he decides to use an execute here, it's a little bit of a misplay, just because the Sea Giant is gonna come down and is gonna hurt him quite a bit. Because this is a little bit greedy. Alan Dan could have just traded into Doomguard and just steal a creature, and didn't really need to use the execute. He could have saved it for something else, but he can definitely now play the Sea Giant safely with 10 mana, but it's going to be really hard for Alan Dang to actually remove this. So Armor Smith is picked up, and it's not what he wanted, and the Argus will potentially be coming down this turn, depending if he picks up a creature to complement it. Knife Juggler is being picked up, Possessed Villager as well. So if he Arguses the Knife Juggler, he can protect his CGI for future turns, so which is pretty disgusting. But no, he doesn't decide to taunt up the Knife Juggler and Possessed Villager alone. He decides to do it with the Sea Giant, of course, because he doesn't really have Execute left. So definitely using these kind of Argus. So he's going to use Argus to just pump up his creatures, just going to do as much damage as possible. King of Kimchi only has 8 health left, so it's looking like he's in a pretty good position. But if this Sea Giant is going to be removed and another weapon is going to be picked up, King of Kimchi has the possibility of actually losing this match, because this Grom on board is going to remove the Sea Giant, and an Arcanite Reaper is going to be picked up. It is going to go to face, leaving King of Kimchi at 1 health and not being able to tap, so he can't actually look for an answer. And he doesn't have lethal on board, so if this is not power overwhelming, he's gonna lose this game. So King of Kimchi losing game number 3 to Alan Dang. So Alan Dang taking game number 3, don't really want a sweep from King of Kimchi. So King of Kimchi is still playing his last deck, which is a Zoo, and Alan Dang is going to be playing his Control Paladin deck. So this matchup can really go in either player's favor, but I feel that the Zoo has the upper hand just because it can play very aggressively in the early game and allow him to pressure the Control Paladin. If the Control Paladin actually doesn't have the early game to actually remove the Zoo's early board, he's going to have a really tough time to actually beat the Zoo, just because it can just flood so quickly. Even if Alan Dang was be able to clear the first wave of creatures, Zoo nowadays is a lot more floody. Like, they're able to flood the board a lot faster than before. I know that Zoo used to be a lot more stickier with the Nerubian eggs and stuff like that, but with the addition of Forbidden Ritual, even if you remove the first board, they can consistently come back again with a bigger board. And especially when Sea Giant's in the deck, you can rejuvenate that board like crazy. They're like, the tempo is going to be huge. So the Forbidden Ritual is being picked up, so if this is going to be equality pyroed, Forbidden Ritual is going to be a really good card to have. I personally like trading this board down. I definitely would not want that Pyromancer alive. It's actually very scary to actually leave it alive, but since he's playing it now, like Alan Dang playing it now, he definitely doesn't have the equality, or he would have saved the Pyro, but just because he wants a little bit of the early board because his hand doesn't look too good, he plays a Pyro for just the board to trade off some minions. And I definitely like the Pyro Overwhelming here, just trade off the Pyromancer, and then using the Forward Walker to actually trade off the Loot Hoarder, just to gain a little bit of the board. But no, he actually decides to go to face. I guess like there's really no need, because the Juggler, it's just gonna kill the Loot Hoarder anyways when the Possessed Villager Death Rattle is popped. So definitely no need for trading there. So King of Kimchi was willing to take the 50-50. So looking at Alan Dang's side, it is turn 3 and it doesn't look too good. He can possibly use the Aldor to gain a little bit of board and just reduce the damage on board, just to reduce the Flame Imp so he doesn't take that much damage. We see the Sea Giant being played at the moment. Can he actually be played for this turn with the Forbidden Ritual? No, if he plays a Forbidden Ritual this turn, it will only be about 2 mana, I believe. So it's definitely not enough to actually be played this turn. So King of Kimchi is not scared of any Consecrate at all, because I feel like, so he's definitely going all in right now, but it doesn't really matter just because Zoo does rejuvenate the board quite quickly, and King of Kimchi was actually betting that the Consecrate was not going to be played, because looking at his face, he thought, oh, that's like, maybe he doesn't have Consecrate, but Direwolf is going to be played right now just to push a little bit of damage with the Voidwalker. So Alan Dang looking like he's in an okay kind of position, not too bad, but it's definitely can go in either player's favor because he is at 15 health right now, and we don't see any healing from Alan Dang. So the Power of Overwhelming coming down to remove the 6/6 creature, and then being played the Imp Gang boss just for a stickier kind of board, and the Direwolf going to deal additional 2 damage. So looking pretty bad for Alan Dang since he doesn't have any sustain, so he definitely needs to pick up a heal and something to actually clear this board. You can potentially just play the Doomsayer, just force King of Kimchi to actually react to the Doomsayer, or he's going to lose his board. King of Kimchi does run out of steam just a little bit, but he has the Warlock Hero Power to rejuvenate his hand, so it doesn't really feel too bad. So Doomsayer can come down here, so he actually is going to use the Doomsayer. He's going to play the Aldor as well. I really like this kind of play is because King of Kimchi is probably going to invest most of his cards onto the Doomsayer, and the Doomsayer is removed. The Elder has a chance to stay alive to do some efficient trading. So this is kind of like a risk-reward kind of play, but if it goes to face, then Alan Dang does lose the value of the Eldor. So, but he sort of wants it to guarantee that the Doomsayer actually sticks because he uses his Elder to reduce the damage on board, right? So Alan Dang really wants his board to be clear no matter what. So it sort of is like an investment, but King of Kimchi does have the damage to actually remove this. He does have the abusive, and he also does have the Argus. It's all about like positioning. If he does it wrong, then it's definitely pretty bad, but only if he does it wrong. So he can use the abusive sergeant and then just Argus the Imp Gang boss alone on the left hand side, and then just trade off the Doomsayer. Or he can just, abusive sergeant. Oh, but he decided to play it on the middle. That is not what he wanted. I think he misplayed here. And I don't feel like he should Argus if you can't remove the Doomsayer. So King of Kimchi knows that he made a mistake, so the ordering is very, very wrong, and he decides to trade the Aldor too, which is not needed. He could have just used that 3 damage to the face, so very tilted or flustered right now just because of that one misplay. Definitely not looking too good. So we do see a Sylvanas on board. We also do see a Forbidden Ritual too, just deciding to play the Forbidden Ritual just to rejuvenate the board that he lost, which is not that bad. Alan Dang does have a Pyromancer, but he doesn't actually have a card to activate it, so it's actually looking not that good for Alan Dang to actually remove this board. But he decides to use the Sylvanas to actually move on the 1/1s. So looking like King of Kimchi can actually develop 2 Sea Giants at the moment, but he definitely needs to pick up something to actually remove this Tyrion. I'm betting that he wants a Power Overwhelming, and does he get it? He does get a Corruption. That actually does look pretty good. Reliquary Seeker is also not bad as well because he can activate right now with 2 Sea Giants, and also so he gets like 2 Sea Giants and also a Reliquary Seeker. Let's just hope that Alan Dang doesn't top deck like Equality, just because it can be combined with the Pyro, and then King of Kimchi is going to be entirely punished. So the Direwolf Alpha is going to be picked up, and it's going to trade into the Tyrion cleanly. So if Alan Dang does not remove majority of this board, he will be getting lethal, I believe. No, depending if Sylvanas actually steals the Sea Giant or not. So it really all depends on the steal. But looking at Alan Dang's hand, he has more than enough to actually contest with this kind of board. He definitely doesn't want to use the Ashbringer on something like big, like on the Reliquary Seeker or even on the Sea Giant, because he will be taking a lot of damage. Like a simple Doomguard can actually take down Alan Dang just because he doesn't really have any card draw. But he really needs to use the Ashbringer to remove something like smaller. Yeah, definitely like the Dire Wolf. He can also... I don't think he can actually remove the Peddler. If he can actually remove the Peddler in some sort of way, he can actually just trade in the Reliquary Seeker to get the Sea Giant, but he definitely can take the 50-50. I feel like it's actually worth it to take the 50-50, and even if he doesn't get the Sea Giant, he can actually use the Ultimate to actually reduce the damage of the Sea Giant, and he does pick up the Sea Giant with the Sylvanas, so feeling a little better here, although he is at 9 health. But for on King of Kimchi's side, he doesn't look like he will be getting any damage for lethal. But Argent Squire is being picked up right now, so he can potentially use it with the Argus, and he also is at a high life total. Ooh, Doomguard is being picked up, but that is not enough. He only has 7 points of damage. Like, he can't play it with Argus on the same turn to do to have enough for lethal, so a little unfortunate there. So he decides to actually play the Flame Imp and the Argus just to have a little bit more damage on board so that he can follow up with a lethal with the Doomguard to finish off Alan Dang. Let's just hope Alan Dang does not get an equality, so he can actually potentially draw into equality just because he has 2 Acolytes and also Solemn Vigil in hand. He can actually start trying to get it now. I would start drawing with the Acolytes right now just because this board is actually pretty big and you do need the equality. You know you haven't played 1 equality yet, so you have 2 in your deck, so it's actually a high possibility that you might even get it. So I actually like seeing Alan Dang try to go for it right here, using the 1/1 Silver here and Recruit to pop the Divine Shield, and then using the 2 Acolyte to trade up the Argent Squire off. The reason for this is because you aren't guaranteed the equality yet, so you want to remove as much minions as possible. So definitely using the 2 Acolytes first to remove the Argent Squire. Tried to look for that equality. That's one and the only card that would save him at the moment and potentially actually win him the entire game, because he actually... Kim Kimchi doesn't actually have lethal. He's only 1 off, right? And he can also potentially draw into sustain as well. Oh, I guess yeah, Solemn Vigil is gonna come out. Oh, I guess N'Zoth can also save him too, just because he does have the Tyrion with the N'Zoth, but picking up the Forbidden Healing, that's also one of the cards that can save him. So he will be healing for 12, which is really, really good. So Dark Peddler is coming down. Oh man, he didn't get the Power Overwhelming. That could have been a card that could have saved him. So coming down with the Doomguard, dealing 10 points of damage, so only 5 more left. So there's actually a couple of outs in King of Kimchi decks, just if he plays another Doomguard or not. If he plays another Doomguard, it looks like it's pretty good for him. Another Power of Overwhelming is pretty good as well. It's probably going to deal the last remaining damage against Alan Dang. But Alan Dang is looking like he's going to stabilize just a little bit, just because he is going to draw a lot of cards with the Acolytes. And he could potentially just use the Consecrate here as well. He can just trade it as Acolyte into the Argus, and then use the Ultimate to make the Doomguard a 3/3, and then trade your Twilight Summoner into the 3/3 Doomguard, and then just use Consecrate for a full board clear. So I definitely like that kind of play. You also established a 3/4 and a 5/5 to contest any future minions that King of Kimchi actually plays out, and those 2 sticky minions, a 5/5 and 3/4, will most of the time trade anything that King of Kimchi actually plays. But Alan Dang is at 5 health right now. It is kind of low, so a top deck Doomguard will definitely seal the game. And if King of Kimchi actually has another charge like an Argent Hearts Rider or not, and combined with a Power of Overwhelming, would definitely let King of Kimchi finish Alan Dang off. A Dark Iron Dwarf is being picked up, and a Voidwalker is being picked up as well. Although there's a lot of damage coming down from Alan Dang's board, Void Walker could potentially save him, but not really, just because there's just so much damage on board. So King of Kimchi, although it's just a small misplay, loses him the game that I felt, because he actually missed like 3 points of damage that could potentially go to face, right? So that 3 points of damage could be highly relevant, and that's why he couldn't push for lethal. Yeah, he actually at one point he was one off lethal, so that 3 damage was highly relevant. So we will be playing the final match of the day, where the 2 top tier decks and players is going to play it out in this best of 5. So game number 5, King of Kimchi playing his Zoo deck and Alan Dang playing his Shaman deck. So personally, I feel that King of Kimchi actually has the upper hand. Zoo is able to consistently build up the board faster than the Shaman, and most of the time Shaman needs to build up the board to actually fight against aggressive decks, but Zoo can just do it so well, and they have cards like Void Walker to protect the board and also to deny Doom Hammer charges as well. So the Zoo itself also has enough utility to beat any type of aggro Shaman kind of deck. So looking at right here, King of Kimchi already established a really powerful early kind of board, and he can actually use the Direwolf Alpha to do a lot of efficient trades. But I definitely like playing the 2 Possessed Villager there, just trading off the Flame Imp into the Flame Juggler, and you can actually follow up the Direwolf Alpha the following turn for some efficient trading with your Possessed Villager. All King of Kimchi actually has to do is just consistently gain the board control, and don't let any minions to actually stick on the board and just trade it onto your face. And then we do see a Forbidden Ritual coming down here just to fill up the board a little bit, just in case if Alan Dang plays a creature, he can efficiently trade it off with the Direwolf Alpha, just placing it between these 1/1 creatures and just consistently trading it off. So we will be seeing Worgen Infiltrator being put down, which is a pretty good card in general, just because King of Kimchi can't remove it, but the Dark Iron Dwarf will be coming down to be used to push a little bit of damage and establish a little bit more of a solid type of board. And that's, as I've said before, like Zoo, she's just gonna establish boards that's so well early, and Aggro Shaman really needs that board to actually contest against certain aggressive decks as well. Like Alan Dang has 2-way out here. It's either he can gain back the board somehow with cards like Lightning Storm, but he definitely doesn't run it, or he needs to pick up enough damage to actually burst out King of Kimchi. But King of Kimchi himself also has a lot of burst too. We do see the power overwhelming in hand, and we get another one from the Dark Pellar, so looking really good for King of Kimchi at the moment at this final game. So putting down the Direwolf Alpha to push a little bit more damage to Alan Dang's face, putting him down to 30 points of damage. If Alan Dang can't beat this board, he will easily lose to double powerful overwhelming that he got picked up from the Dark Pellar. So let's see what Alan Dang actually picks up here. So he gotta use a Rock Biter. You can possibly just use this to remove the minions on board, because he can't really afford to actually go face here. So even on board, so there's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 points of damage, so he does have lethal. So using the Lightning Bolt to min-max the kind of damage that King of Kimchi actually has. So by removing it, he is 2 off lethal. I mean 1 off lethal, so but the 2 powerful overwhelming is going to be more than enough to take down Alan Dang. So King of Kimchi will be taking the final game of the night, and yeah, so congratulations to King of Kimchi for winning VFL's Tavern Hero number 2.